Scott Sands Media. State Rep Jansen Owens is joining us now on SuperTalk Mississippi. My apologies for the time confusion, but it's great to see you. Thanks for coming in.
No problem. Wasn't an inconvenience at all. I mean, 15 minutes here and there. What's that?
You're a Southern Miss guy. I was looking at their baseball team. Are they getting the credit they deserve when you compare them to Ole Miss? What is it, a 12-game win streak right now?
Yeah, I don't think they're getting the credit they deserve, but that's usual with us. But we'll still get to the top.
So I probably lived in Hattiesburg well after you went to USM. What were the hot bars when you were there? For me, it was Senior Frog and Roper's.
Brewski's. That's the only place I went.
I don't even know what Brewski's is, but I'm glad to see Robert St. John and the Hog and Crescent City Grill are still thriving.
Yeah, they're doing great. I was at the Hog night before last, actually.
Oh, nice. Send me some crawfish from Crescent City Grill as crawfish etouffee.
Okay, I'll do that.
A lot going on in Jackson and the legislature. What's up with the tax bill? Let's just start there. Is special session needed? Is this going to get done?
Well, I hope it gets done, or else there's going to be a lot of people not getting paid on July 1st. I think the leadership's talking on both sides of the building, and I think they're making progress. I think we'll have a special session here in the next few weeks to get at least the priorities funded, so the state can keep running after July 1st. The tax bill, Speaker Gunn and current Speaker White worked for, I know, at least since I've been elected in 2019, every year we attempted to eliminate the income tax. And ultimately this year we were able to succeed in doing that. Putting money back into the pockets of Mississippians is what Republicans are supposed to want to do, and it's been a priority of the House since I've been elected for both speakers I've served under. And I was happy to see that we took a major Republican initiative, a conservative initiative, and we passed it out of both chambers this session. I think that's a huge win, not only for the House, but of course for Mississippians. The more money they earn, the more money they put back into the economy because they get to keep, the better our economy will do. So I'm excited to see exactly how that's going to impact Mississippi moving forward.
So what's the major holdup here, and what's the work through?
Oh, well, I'm not sure. I'm not in those discussions. I know there's been some talk about basically whether or not we want to do our projects bill or not do our projects bill, picking and choosing which projects. I think that's one of the holdups. Hopefully, the two sides are coming together and working that out as we move forward.
So, along with the tax decrease, the elimination of the state income tax, also needs to be spending cuts. And I've seen follow Shad White on X. I've seen some of the cuts coming from Moj. Are you getting any pushback from these cuts and this waste, fraud, and abuse that you're finding at a state level?
Oh, we always get pushback whenever somebody calls out the bad apples in the bowl. But, most economists will say that if you want to eliminate an income tax, you have to offset it with at least some spending cuts, or else you might be setting yourself up for failure. I think the House prioritized doing that. We've been extremely fiscally responsible over the last few years. As far as the auditor's work, I mean, some of the stuff he's uncovering is absolutely ridiculous. I think the legislature will be poised to act on some of those issues moving forward with some reforms. Just recently, I know it was federal funds that he uncovered was being abused through the health department, but some of the stuff they were spending that money on and just wasting taxpayer dollars is absolutely ludicrous. So I do believe that there's going to be some movement moving forward to hold some of these agencies and some of these groups that receive our tax dollars accountable, just like they're doing up in D.C. There's no reason that you should be spending tax dollars on trips to bars and holding little parties and things like that, especially the way the economy is moving right now, increase in inflation. And we need to make sure that our tax dollars are being, one, if they have to be spent, they're being spent responsibly. But we need to be focused on trying to see how we can get those tax dollars back into the pockets of Mississippians, which is what we're doing with the tax cut.
State Rep Jansen Owens here on SuperTalk Mississippi. In D.C., when it comes to DOGE, Republicans, Democrats alike, talk a good game about cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, but when it comes to actuality, there's a lot of resistance in cutting some of these programs and cutting some of the spending. It seems like some of the same things are happening at a state level. what do you do to make sure that these cuts are actually made, though? Do you just continue to call them out publicly and point them out in an effort of transparency? Does the legislature, do you need to get involved?
Well, the auditor's doing a good job of pointing it out, which is the first step, is identifying fraud, waste, and abuse, which is his job, and I think he's doing a great job doing that. But we're the appropriators. The legislature appropriates the funds to these particular agencies, so it will involve us having to look at the money we're giving these people moving into the next session, whether or not they're spending it responsibly, and what we can do to reel it in. If the auditor has identified certain agencies that are misspending some funds, then we need to do what we can to reel them in, to hold them accountable, whether it be putting some more strings, attaching some more strings, or reporting requirements to the expenditure of these funds, or just cutting them all together, saying you're not getting this money because you've proven that you can't spend it responsibly. Now, I will say a lot of these agencies, particularly I know the recent issue through the health department, I know Dr. Edney is doing good work to I know he's stepped up to the plate, and he says, we're not going to take this, and we're not going to let this happen anymore. So I know Dr. Edney is working to reel that in and put that and get that. He's new, so a lot of this happened before he came into his position, and I know he's doing good work to try and reel that misuse in. He indicates that he's passed or implemented a lot of new spending requirements for these nonprofits receiving these grants through the health department. But I will say a lot of these funds going to agencies are not even coming from the state legislature, but they're direct grants from the federal government, which is what you're seeing D.C. try to reel in through the DOGE cuts, or this money coming straight down with very few strings or very few accountability measures. So I think that's something that you're going to have to work on, not only through the state legislature, but through the D.C. guys as well.
And as we talk about cutting taxes, eliminating the state income tax, what does that do to state revenue? I think at the end of the day, long term, revenue will go up. You're stimulating the economy. But the other thing you can do is as I've talked about when I've filled in before, is pass online gaming. And that's like some numbers have suggested $40 to $80 million in potential tax revenue for the state if you just get your heads together on online gaming.
Don't even get me started on online gaming. The fact that we have not passed that, 3 years the House has passed that bill. Well, I don't know if it's been 3 years, but I know I voted on it at least 3 times to get it out of the House, and it's always running into issues in the Senate. Now, I will say this. The fact that we don't have online gaming is strictly a result of protectionism measures in the legislature. We are trying to protect somebody. We're trying to protect somebody's pocketbook, and we don't want to throw online gaming into the free market. Where Republicans were supposed to be all about that. But apparently we have some people in the legislature who disagree with that premise. I think that the House has made it a priority. Well, I know the House has made it a priority, at least since Speaker White took office, and I think we're going to continue working to get that passed. Surprisingly, you would not believe, other than PERS, the second thing I hear from constituents about is online gaming. Other than PERS, I hear more about online gaming from constituents than anything else. It is shocking the number of people in our state who want to get that passed. I believe, of course, we have a great casino industry on the coast. They do a lot of good.
Casinos are big business, but they seem to have undue influence on maybe it's the state Senate side and blocking this from getting done. And I understand wanting to protect some of the table game revenue that the casinos bring in, but the online gaming is just making it more difficult and likely driving online or sports wagering underground.
Right, and it's not all the casinos. I will say that we have some casinos that support the program. It's 1 or 2 casinos that might be a little hesitant to allow this to pass. But you're right about the underground system we've got right now. Online sports betting is happening in Mississippi. Whether you want to admit it or not, people are spending money that's not being taxed and not going into the coffers to alleviate any type of spending we've got. It's happening. We're just not doing it legally. And, it's kind of ludicrous to think that we can't get this passed here.
State Rep Jansen Owens. Again, apologies for the time confusion, but it's good to see you. Thank you for coming in. I'd love to spend some more time with you in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. I appreciate you, and let me know if you need anything else.
And Southern Miss to the top.
The top.
Let's see how they do in baseball. Thanks, man.
Absolutely.
Scott Sands in for Gerard Gibbert. He'll be back tomorrow.